Hi friends, welcome to our autumnal equinox new moon yoga video being sponsored by someone who came in for a private and now she would like a video at home. So if you would like a personalized video, you could come in for a private, or you could just ask for a video with our monthly focus, or perhaps something that you're working with or on. So pull up a mat. You might like to have a blanket, or you can always use a towel. If you have a belt or a strap, that might be helpful. And a couple of blocks could be helpful, but you don't need them. So be creative with what you have at home, and let's get started. So let's stand in a comfortable stance for you. And some people may find that they want to bring their feet completely together. Some people may want to have their feet hips width, and some might even come wider than their hips. And just feel the four corners of your feet, two in the front, two in the heel, and the inner edge and the outer edge. And pick those toes up and spread them wide, and then root them back down and connect. And if you can, practice in your bare feet, because your toes are your roots and they do help us ground, especially when it gets a bit windy outside and we feel like we might blow away with that wind. Find your soft gaze over the tip of your nose. Maybe feel your knees pulling in and up a bit. Maybe feel your navel center all around your belly button pulling in and up a bit. And let those good shoulders roll back a bit. And you're always welcome to close your eyes, and sometimes then we have a giggle with our balance, right? You may take a moment to notice if your hands are facing forward or if they're facing side body. You can even play with that and let this be an exploration. And maybe you'd like to take one hand to your heart center and one hand to your forehead, breathing. And then your forehead hand could move to your upper belly, breathing. And your upper belly hand could move to your underarm. Your thumb can stay out, and your heart center hand could move to your other shoulder, giving ourselves a moment of containment. And you're welcome to do this from a seat if you prefer. And from this place, let's find our ears and just give them a little massage. So you're pulling from the tops of your ears down so that it feels good. And this is a way to find focus and calm. And then we'll find the collarbone, and you move just underneath the collarbone, and you could have your middle finger and thumb rubbing, pushing a bit in circles. Just underneath the bone, you'll find two soft spots. And then releasing your brain buttons as you're ready. Let's go ahead and give the jaw a little attention while we're at it. Your tongue will move clockwise for you, across front of top teeth, and then across the front of bottom teeth. Reversing your circles as you feel complete. We'll move across bottom teeth, counterclockwise this time, and then across top teeth. Releasing your tongue, and let's go ahead and find your feet if they want to switch positions or stay right where they are. As you reach out and up, check in with the knees pulling in and up, the navel center pulling in and up, and you have some options. You could hook your thumbs and reach up, or you can interlace your fingers and reach up, and we'll take that to one side for a crescent moon. So your bottom thumb or your bottom hand could become your back hand, and middle finger and thumb could clasp the top wrist as you gaze across. And then coming center, and you can hook thumbs in the other direction and wax and wane in your standing crescent moon. Your bottom hand could also become your back hand, and you create the other version of the crescent moon, which perhaps we'll see a sliver of this evening. And then coming center, we'll release the hands and let the hands make fists now, and the knuckles can briskly rub into your low back, the top of your glutes perhaps, your sacrum even, the back of your hips. Pressure points good for releasing our nervousness, for releasing our sadness, for our releasing perhaps a deep missing of someone or someone's, and not pushing it away, not ignoring it, but knowing we come equipped, our incredible bodies come equipped with these pressure points that we can give some good attention to. And then as you release your hands, let's take it through sun salutations. So I'm going to bring my feet more to hips width. You're always welcome to reach forward and up, which tends to be kinder to the shoulders, or you can reach out and up. Mountain pose. And in Vinyasa Krama Yoga, we interlace fingers and press up. You're welcome to hook thumbs and open up, an open-hearted mountain. I'm moving to an extended mountain, so the heels will lift. Tadasana, breathing. Gazing to a point that doesn't move to help you find your balance. Releasing your heels, bringing your hands perhaps to your knees. As you invite your knees more in line with your toes, you can reach your fingertips way far forward and your seat way far back, and then we'll lift up and find our chair pose, Ardha Utkatasana. Maybe you'll add your power arms. Fingertips make their way to the toe tips, and one foot steps back for an active lunge. So in alignment yoga, we might say pull in and up through the inner edges of your upper legs and then push back through your heel. You can bring your back knee down for a knees down plank, or you can step it back to a knees up plank, bringing your shoulders forward, lifting through your core, and then pushing back through your heels. Again, you can come down, knees first, or your entire body releases to the mat. It's wise to break the chaturanga into parts as we strengthen. You may rest your chin or your forehead. Perhaps you'd like to bring your fingertips a bit wider than your mat. And as you start to lift your elbows, please press into the front of your hips, into the tops of your feet and your toenails, and then maybe you'll imagine holding an avocado between your chin and your throat and creating your hooded cobra, where the cobra lets us know not to step any closer. And then you're working with your upper back muscles. Bringing it down to the mat, we'll bring the hands near the shoulders and the chest. Sometimes the feet go wide, so we bring them back in, and as you pull your belly button in and up, we'll take it up and back to child's pose, where your knees can go wide and your big toes touch, or your knees can come together and you can release. Of course, you can take child's pose whenever you feel the need for it. You also can move to a puppy dog pose, which is a nice release for the shoulders and the wrists. Forearms down, forehead down, knees under the hips, toes tucked. Here's one variation. Of course, you can lift your head a bit, lift your elbows a bit. And we have our good old downward facing dog, where we lift the hips and press back through the heels and perhaps walk it out, as we like to say, lifting one heel and then the other, bending one knee and then the other, pressing one heel down and then the other. If you like, we'll press both heels down now, and both hips can move back toward the wall. You might take a peek at the knees and see knees and heels in line. It's a nice alignment cue. And then a turbo dog, where the heels lift, the knees bend, you're gazing forward, lots of steps forward, or you step forward with the other foot and find your active lunge, and we move into our half fold eventually. Of course, you can take lots of steps forward or 2 giant steps, and some of us hop forward. Half fold followed by full fold if you're practicing. Half fold tends to be a bit kinder to the low back, so some of us stay there and really let the back lengthen. When you bring your nose closer to your knees, you may round a bit because you're forward folding. So you just check in with your body and be sure that this suits you. And if you're not sure, experiment. And the more we experiment, the more we learn to listen. Coming up in steps, we're finding your reverse swan dive as we return to top of mat. And maybe for a moment, we'll take prana mudra, where you're creating peace fingers, but then instead of thumb holding the ring and pinky down fingers, you're letting the top, the tips, touch. So thumb tip to traditional ring fingertip and pinky fingertip, and you can take that prana mudra to your heart center, to your belly. Maybe you just want that near your side as we consider an intention or a wish for our practice now that we've begun. Maybe for someone you don't even know, maybe for a dear one, maybe for yourself. You choose. And take that wish with you as you find your tall, strong mountain. Tadasana. Making your way to Ardha Utkatasana, maybe the big reach at first. Let those knees be just a bit behind the tippy toes and then lifting up. Perhaps this time as you hold the chair pose and you breathe, you'll reach behind you to find your elbows or your back salute, the Prastanjali. Fingertips make their way to the toe tips as you create a bit of a half fold here. The other foot steps back and you find your active lunge. We do a little pulling in and up and pushing back through the heel, and we take it to a high plank or a knees down plank, and perhaps you'll practice that chaturanga with me in slow motion. So we're strengthening as we make our way to the mat and then through the shoulders into the cobra, tops of feet down, toenails down, palms, four corners down, fingers spread wide. Hips are pressing forward a bit, so front body is actively supporting back body. As you move back, you may want to tuck the toes and lift up through the hips and press back to down dog. You have all of those options we looked at last time. The child's pose, the puppy dog, the down dog. In down dog, if you're there, perhaps you'll press the heels toward the mat and press the hips toward the wall behind you. Your gaze could go to your knees, releasing your neck, breathing. This time, let's lift. I need to move because I have the wall. The other foot compared to the foot you stepped back with. And if you're near the wall, you could press that foot into wall and feel your heels activate. One heel pushing to wall, one heel pushing to mat, and then the top knee bends and moves toward your opposite elbow, and then pressing back for the three-legged dog. The top knee bends and moves toward your opposite elbow. Did I say that last time? We went to matching the first time. And now you'll move your way toward matching. And finally, you'll transition to pigeon pose. So you may like to have a blanket nearby to place under your hip. You may like to have blocks in front of you to lift up and give yourself a bit more space in that low back hip region. And of course, we want this front knee to be very happy. So you can adjust this front foot. And while I show you that I'm leaning, we want to come back to center space. And you'll see now, if you'll begin your journey forward to release onto your forearms, to release onto your forehead. Blocks are not up to you. As you lift your head and heart, you start to push your fingers, your hands into the mat, and we'll consider a strap or a belt as we see about bending the back knee. You may want to reach with your matching hand. You may want to reach with your opposite hand. You can take turns like that. Your front foot might help you root and ground. Your front hand might do the same. And of course, you can see about reaching both hands back there. And the strap is always available to catch your ankle or your foot. still, some of us like to work on the mermaid position that we've come to know it as. You can give this back foot a little nudge with your hand, and I am leaning now, so my aim will be to eventually come back to center space after the lean. You could find a mudra with one or both hands. You could see if this front hand helps you balance. And of course you can bring the front hand up and over, and maybe those fingertips will agree to meet. And then releasing out as you're ready. Child's pose, puppy dog, down dog, any variation of those positions. I'm going to take it up and back to a wide stance dog. Adho Mukha Svanasana, as wide as the mat. Hands go wide, feet go wide, pressing through the heels, pressing through the hips. Bringing your hands to shoulders width. You can bend the knees and step or hop your feet to hips width, or sometimes we even touch the inner edges of the feet in the down dog. And this time I'll walk forward a bit and we'll lift the leg that was just in the front of the pigeon, pull it underneath and step to the lunge to make our way forward. And let's find the full fold, and then we can come up in the steps or the reverse swan dive. Surya Namaskar, sun salutation, moving with your breathing. Ardha Utkatasana, the half squat, or perhaps you can adjust your feet if you like. You'll move to the full squat. Hands can be in front of you, or they may lift up. Fingertips to toe tips. We're stepping that first foot back again. Of course, you can hop to your plank, and we'll work on a bit of a slow motion chaturanga, just to be sure we're keeping it strong as we lower down and push through and up to find the cobra, or of course if you have up dog in your practice, toes tuck, knee up, toes tuck, knee up, top of foot down, top of foot down. Urdhva Mukha Svanasana, breathing. Bending knees, rolling over toes. Slow, steady breathing may accompany you. Finding your fingers spread a bit, your fingertips active. The four corners of your palms. And we'll lift the other foot now, compared to the foot you stepped back with, finding your three-legged dog, bending that top knee and moving it toward your matching elbow, and then up and back you go, three-legged, bending top knee, moving it toward your opposite elbow, up and back you go, and one more time to that matching elbow until we transition to the pigeon on the other side, where you have all of those options again to find your props. You can set up with the blanket, without the blanket, with the blocks, without the blocks, as you like. Sometimes they're just fun to add in. Sometimes they offer us great support. Please take care of yourself. As you begin to lift your head and your heart, we'll see about bending that back knee again, holding your foot with the matching hand, or you might like to place a strap around your foot or your ankle. Of course, you can switch hands and see how that works for you. And you might try both hands, something different for the shoulders there. And of course you can see about the matching hand giving that foot a little nudge forward as your other hand could take mudra. The back hand might as well. And sometimes we have one shoulder and hip that's a little different than the other. So let's see what happens. Maybe the foot moves closer to the crook of elbow. Maybe the other hand comes up and over, and oh yeah, the quads are letting me know that maybe eventually those fingers will find each other again. So we let it be a practice. And releasing out of your mermaid. Let's stay on the floor now and slide those good legs forward. And we'll come on down to the floor to do one of our Kundalini series. So let's have the props nearby in case we decide to use them. And look behind you and promise me you have safe space. And some of us will keep the knees bent and lower. Some will lengthen legs and lower. Some will move one hand at a time or one arm at a time. Some will move one vertebra at a time. And then if you have a rolled up mat, you can adjust it. We'll take a moment to press the whole back into the mat. That can be more available when we bend the knees. We can press the whole back in. And of course you can lengthen the legs then and practice that way. So you're activating front body. We need room to stretch, so I have some pretty good room here. If you have anything in your way, give yourself permission to move a bit. And give yourself a really good stretch here. So you're reaching through fingertips and toe tips. Maybe you'll reach so much so through one side you feel it become longer than the other, and then reach so much so through the other side you feel that become longer than the other. Remember, we're pressing the back down then after the stretch, and I'll talk us through this. So I like to take a big inhale, and then on the exhale, lift the head, lift the feet, bring the arms next to the side body. So you're lifting the arms up and over, and we'll practice breath of fire. So remember, breath of fire, let's rest a moment, is a soft pump, not sharp, soft, and it's a fast pump at your navel center, pulling in and up. It's a cleansing breath. The mouth is closed and you're releasing the breath of fire through your nose. The inhale is automatically happening, so you are not holding your breath. And you can do this in increments. So when you need a break, take one and come back in when you're ready. So let's go through that big stretch again. And that's when most likely your spine will lift up off the ground a bit. And then as it suits you, the exhale comes. And we lift, a nice big inhale. As you gaze to your toes, breath of fire. Releasing, resting. Maybe you'll go again, a nice big stretch. Exhaling lifts. Nice big inhale. Breath of fire. Release, rest, breathe a moment. Bringing your knees in now towards your upper body. You might give yourself a little rock and roll. And as you're ready, you lift your head, your nose, your forehead towards your knees. You can hold your legs where it makes sense for you. You might like to wrap the arms around the legs. Nice big inhale, breath of fire. Releasing, resting, maybe a little rocking and rolling. You may rock and roll to one side to lift your way up, or you can rock and roll forward and back to lift your way up. We'll bring the 4 fingers down, so you're bending at your middle knuckle there. To bring your 4 fingers down and the fingertips just touch what you might call the ridge of your palm. Your thumbs lift up, and this is the last part of your Kundalini series to energize. It's the ego eradicator. Your thumb in the yoga map of the hand represents the ego and the element fire. And so the idea is, there's probably many ideas, but your ego is what makes you up. So we don't want to totally do away with it, but at times it can be helpful, maybe especially in our yoga pursuits, to give it a rest. Inhaling fully, exhaling completely. Inhale more than you think you can. Breath of fire. Releasing your breath, resting your hands. Maybe you'll take Prana Mudra again. Looks like the peace fingers. The thumb tips are meeting traditional ring fingertip and pinky fingertip. While we're here, let's work with Sanskrit sounds for strengthening. So find your breathing as we transition. You can do this standing if you prefer, in your goddess pose or your power pose, or or sometimes I call it our full moon pose. Your hands can reach out, your palms can face up. The first sound is D, D-H-I. The second sound is R-I, R-I. And the third sound is Ha, H-A. On the Ha, you might like to lift in and up like you did in your breath of fire in that navel center area, the seat of your personal power. And then I like to breathe here, so I'm ready to begin again. You'll see what works for your breathing. We'll start with the breathing in. Di, ri, ha. Di, ri, ha. Di, ri, ha. Di, ri, ha. Continue. Di, ri, ha. Di, ri, ha. Di, ri, ha. Di, ri, ha. Two more. Di, ri, ha. Di, ri, ha. Releasing, resting. We'll move back down to the mat for our supine positions, or positions we practice from the back. You may bend your knees, you may lengthen your legs, you know you have safe space. You may release one hand at a time, one arm at a time, one vertebra at a time, and once you're down, the back of your head, and you can take a little moment again to press your whole back down. The backs of arms are pressing down, and let's walk our feet to one side of the mat, and then your hands come overhead, and your hands walk to that same side. The foot that's closest to the side you've moved to is your bottom foot, your ankles cross. The hand that's closest to the side you've moved to is your bottom thumb, or the bottom hand where you're clasping, your wrist again, your middle finger and thumb clasp your wrist, and you're finding crescent moon. Supine crescent moon, or if you prefer, banana asana. It gives you a nice visual. Coming center with the hands and the feet, we'll walk the feet to the other side of the mat. Foot closest to the side you've moved to is the bottom foot. Other foot crosses. Hand closest to the side you've moved to is the bottom hand or thumb. Waxing and waning, remembering our phases of life, going along perhaps with the phases of moon, changing every night or night and a half or so. Your bottom hand can become your back hand if you want to clasp the wrist with middle finger and thumb. Just check in with your head. You have back of head on the mat, but you might turn a little bit to the side since you're in your crescent moon or your banana asana. You're coming back to center space with your hands and your feet. And let's play with some side lying poses. So you can bend one knee, bring one leg long, and move to your side body to become, before we move into side lying tree, let's find our resting Vishnu pose. So you can let your head rest in your palm, your bottom leg bends, and you'll lift your top leg. Some of us might start with a bent leg, and you might even hold that near the knee. You might start to reach up and hold the inner edge of foot. Of course, if you have your belt or strap nearby, you can catch your foot with the strap, and you can also catch your big toe. Slow, steady breathing. Releasing the top foot, letting the top hand balance you. Now we'll move into that sideline tree. So you have your bottom leg long and your top hand pressing down to help you balance, and your top foot can rest somewhere on your long leg, or it could even rest behind your leg, which might be a nice opening. You need to play with it and see what works for you. And then your head is resting on your bottom arm. Side lying tree, or as we know it in Sanskrit, the Vrikshasana. And then from side lying tree, we'll move into side lying bow. Just fun and interesting to experience the poses, not only on the floor, but also we're kind of breaking them in half. Well, some of them are about being in half. Again, you can grab your belt and hook your foot into the belt, or you can hold a pant leg or an ankle or a foot. My bottom leg is bent. My bottom arm is offering my head support. And if you are holding your top foot, you might press it a bit more into your hand. And then releasing, we have the other side to work with, so you might roll on over, and we'll set up for that resting Vishnu pose first. So your bottom hand supports your head, your bottom leg can bend a bit, and you might start with the bent leg lifting up, or you can hold inner edge of foot, hold big toe, and of course you can bring your belt around the foot if you like. Releasing out of Vishnu pose, let's move to the side lying tree. Bottom arm long, bottom leg long. You can flex or point your foot and see if one or the other gives you balance. Your front hand can press fingers in front of you, and your top foot can find somewhere to rest on your long leg, or it can rest behind your long leg. From side lying tree, we'll turn into side lying bow. The bottom leg bends, belt, strap, pant leg, ankle, foot. All good choices. If you are finding your foot, go ahead, if you'd like, and press the foot into your hand to see about a bit more of an opening. Releasing out of side lying bow, let's return to the back side of the body. You can even out a bit, and we'll give one knee a hug in. And then that knee can move to its matching side. If you like, you can place, if you have a blanket or a block nearby, you can rest your leg on the block, but you don't have to. You can hold it there, or sometimes it just makes its way down a little closer to the mat or the floor. And you're welcome to bring your arms out to the side. Sometimes the matching hand likes to hold the leg. As we prepare to switch sides, you might want to, well, let's bring the knee back to center first. And then you could keep the knee bent and cross the midline, which will give you a really nice spinal twist. Or you can take the belt, wrap it around the foot, give the belt to the opposite hand, and bring that leg to the opposite side. Your bottom leg can stay long. And in this position, I want your head to stay down, please, looking up to the ceiling, but I just want you to see me for a moment. This foot that crossed over could push into a wall, which might give you something different, or this foot that's the bottom foot could push into the wall, and that might give you something different. And then one more option would be to bend that bottom leg and catch your foot for what some are calling the cattail. So you'll see if you're going to have both knees bent, or both legs long, or one long and one bent. Lots of options to work with here. And this other arm can also reach across from you, which might be really nice from your shoulders, for your shoulders, excuse me. And then we unwind the tail, we unwind the legs, we bring that leg center. You might want to hug it in and bring the ankle and the knee in line with your underarm, and then we'll switch sides. Other leg long, take a moment to resituate the back body, the hip. Other knee gets a hug in. You can bring it out to the side. If you have something nearby and you want to prop it up, feel free. You don't have to. It's an option. And then this knee that went to its matching side comes center. And remember our options. You can cross your midline, and the bent knee foot can rest somewhere on your long leg. You can rest your arms. You can find your cattail from here. Your gaze can be straight up. As you do all of this, let's see, where was I on the other side? You can wrap the belt around your foot. Let your opposite hand, find the belt and take that leg across the body. It might end up resting on a block or a blanket or pushing into a wall. Or if you're situated at the wall and you want the bottom foot to press in, that's another way to experience this. We really have a lot of options. Your bottom leg can also bend, and maybe you'll find your tail there. If any part of you says, that's not the choice for me, give yourself permission to unwind and experience the pose the way your body prefers. Your gaze straight up to the ceiling, typically neutral for neck. Of course, you can gaze away from the leg that crossed your midline if you like. And then we'll bring this head center, this leg center, and we'll hug it in line, ankle, knee, underarm. And let's give ourselves a bit of so-called yin yoga before we rest. So we'll find your blanket, if you have it nearby, to prop, and we'll find our 2 blocks. They can come behind. You might use the middle level, or you might use the lower level. You'll see. You can start with your hands. You don't have to use the blocks. One leg will be long, and one knee will bend. And you'll prop the knee and the ankle up on your block. And if your body temperature is changing, because we're doing a lot of work on our back now, have your layers nearby. And I don't have my knees touching, but they're not super far apart. And this knee wants to stay down. If it starts to lift, that means that our arms need to come longer. So you remember, perhaps, me sharing about a coach I had in high school, and that person's motto was, no pain, no gain. That is not my motto, and it is not our motto right here. This is a very different kind of release. If you are experiencing sensation of pain, please lift up and out. However, if your body says, pretty good release, play with coming down a little closer to earth. I think I'm going to have the wall in the way, but you might even come all the way down. Well, that knee is popping up a bit, so let me see if I can support everything here. Maybe your arms will reach overhead if you don't have a wall in the way. Maybe they'll reach out to side. Sometimes we just like to keep arms and hands close by. And then as you're ready, we'll press. Sometimes I hold the foot with the matching hand and hold the mat with the other hand and press down to begin the lift up. And of course, we'll gently unwind because you need your knees to move after your practice. And we'll take it to the other side, and we're almost ready for our yoga rest. So the other knee bends, and you're propping the towel or the blanket under your knee and ankle. Let me remember to move up this time so I have more room for my arms in case I want them to lengthen. And maybe you'll find your hands. You're allowed to move in increments in yin yoga. You don't need to move right to one spot and stay there. Similar to restorative yoga, but it seems to me a bit more intense, finding balance with the softness and the gentleness and the intenseness of life. And perhaps letting what stirs up on the mat be a good lesson for us when we return to that place called world off of the mat. We bring this with us so you can check in with the knee, the ankle, and sometimes we find out one side is so very different than the other. And moving out of the pose by bringing the hands close, maybe matching hand holds the foot, maybe other hand holds the mat, and you're pressing down to gently lift up and move your way out of the posture. I'm here at the wall, so I'm going to turn it around and take those legs up the wall. You're welcome to set up as you like. If you have a nice big pillow or bolster nearby, you may want to let your ankles lift a bit or your knees lift a bit. Anytime we can get those feet up overhead is typically a good idea. Of course, if someone is very pregnant, it is not. We want to support you differently. And if there's low blood pressure, it may not be the best idea. So that may mean you just need to lift your head a little bit, and that could help you. Or maybe instead of legs up the wall, you would just have your prop under your knees or your feet. This is a nice restorative pose that encourages a good sleep. Resting your fingers and toes, releasing your ankles and wrists. Your knees and elbows rest. Of course, you have the option to move if you would prefer something different. You could find your resting goddess pose, knees bent, feet together, arms out like a trident. You're welcome to take rest for as long as you'd like. So if you'd like to pause the video and give yourself a bit longer shavasana or constructive rest, please do. When you're ready to come back, you can wiggle the fingers and the toes. You can round the ankles and the wrists, maybe in one direction and then in the other. You could give yourself a really big stretch. And a gentle hug. Find your way to one side to rest a moment or two or three. And then as your top hand presses down, you can guide your way back to your seat. And if you're here at the wall, you're welcome to use the wall as one last prop. Of course, you can cover up as the seasons change. You may want more layers. And if you're using the wall as your last prop, you might bring your back of head to wall. You might bring your backs of upper arms to wall. And even lift your hands for a moment. If you like, you can find that prana mudra again. Prana meaning life force energy. Taking that in with each inhale. We'll end with a bit of breath of fire. You remember it's a soft pump at the navel center, helping us to clean out. Focusing on exhale, leaving nostrils. Inhale quite fully and begin. Slow, steady exhale. Breathing. Perhaps noticing space you've made for that beautiful breath. Remembering intention you set near the beginning of class and taking that good wish with you. We'll close with the sound Haum, H-A-U-M, for strength, joining in, listening in, or mentally reciting as it suits you after inhale. Haum. 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 May you have strength. May you be strength. May you share strength. Thank you for sharing your practice with me. Belated Happy New Year, Happy Rosh Hashanah, and blessed festive Navaratri, the 9 nights of the goddess. And with this arrival of new moon, I am sure there are other celebrations. May you be safe, may you be happy, may you be well.